Get ready to cry if you watch probably any episode of Frieren. You have a decent shot, but especially with episode 16, we have so much that just it wants to emotionally tear at your heartstrings, and even if you don't have tears running down your face, you are going to be eternally sobbing. I mean, whether it's a story of a dwarf who's guarded a village for over 400 years because his human wife loved this village. He can't even really remember her face, the sound of her voice, and he's literally going senile and repeating things because he's no longer all there in the head. To having one of my new favorite characters of this show potentially leaving because the person he's looking for is in the opposite direction than where the other characters are heading. And the way they can so simply take this subject matter and turn it into an emotional gut punch should be studied, because not many authors get it this right. Frieren is a certified masterpiece, and no one can tell me otherwise. Full live reaction to today's wonderful episode over on my Patreon. If you would like to see that, head on over there, and it is available. This was another great one. Truthfully, I try to figure out what is the best Frieren episode, because if you like action, there's some great ones to pick from. If you like emotional sobbing stories, a lot to pick from. You like more slice of life adventures, this kind of has a jack of all trades vibe to it, and it can be a little bit of anything, and it kind of has been a little bit of anything. Hell, they've even sprinkled in some potential romance between Stark and Fern and everything. It really does have an unlimited style. It feels like it's an unfiltered anime that's just, these are characters exploring a world, and as socially awkward as the four of them are, at the end of the day, they are just such a perfect party, which is probably why it hurts me so much to know that my boy Zion probably should go, even though it crushes me to say so. I mean, I literally said it since he joined. I was like, he is the best, he is the perfect priest, the goatee priest. I can't wait to see where it goes, but, eventually, at some point, the roads are gonna diverge a little, and he has to make a tough choice. Will he immediately make that choice? I'm not sure, but I feel like eventually, sooner rather than later, he'll have to. Maybe they'll have a little going away party, I don't know, but you can't say, it would be selfish for any of these characters, including the viewers, to say that he shouldn't, if he truly wants to see his friend again, this gorilla, which, insane name, but I guess it is memorable, he should go on his path to find him. Because at the end of the day, humans' lives are short, and to spend 10 or 20 years going in the opposite direction, that's going to add probably another 10 or 20 years to potentially retrace those steps, right? And he could be dead, he absolutely could be, but at the end of the day, if we truly care about a character, and for these characters, if they truly care about someone who's alive in front of them, they have to let him go if that is what he wants. But maybe he will make a different choice. I don't know, but it's depressing to think about because, I mean, I want him for another 20 episodes minimum in this party, but maybe this is the road we have to take. I don't know, but it will be interesting to see where they go. My favorite part, though, hands down, was what they did with the dwarf storyline. Though before we jump into that, because that's probably going to be the main topic of today's video, I love what they did with Kraft. So when Kraft was initially in the anime, in terms of that little winter hut scene, I saw a lot of people talk about oh man, there's something to him. He probably had something very similar to what Frieren went through. And I think it's absolutely confirmed. He's a forgotten hero, just like Himel will be one day, and Frieren and the others. Because at the end of the day, when elves can live thousands of years, it doesn't matter if you destroy the big demon lord of a story, there's gonna be another big demon lord or another apocalypse level threat that will pop up in another generation's lifetime. And that's clearly what's happened between Kraft as well as Himel's stories. And both of them probably aren't the first and second time either. They're probably the 70th and 71st. We don't know how many of these big evils have been around, but there's probably been a shit ton. And as much as you want to keep those statues around, eventually there's going to come a generation that says, I don't even know this dude's name. I want to be a hero, but I'm not going to be forgotten like them. It's very interesting to see that, and it's nice to get the confirmation that Kraft, very similar to Himel, did something crazy back in his life. We'll probably never know the full details because it's long but forgotten, but that same thing is going to happen to Himel's story in time, and it's kind of sad to think about. Even if someone like Frieren can live so long, eventually her mind will also fade someday if she does approach the natural end of her lifespan. And I think that's what's really touching and heartbreaking, because anyone who's known anyone who has suffered memory loss or they've aged, and even if they're not senile per se, the idea that you could be having a conversation with them and then they naturally forget the fact that, oh no, the demon lord's been killed for 80 years at this point, but you saying you're going to the demon lord's castle because the mind's starting to go a bit, it's heartbreaking. It is not in the way that you're oh man, this guy can't function without him. I mean, This dude is still able to put a strong warrior like Stark on his face just by moving his sword a little. Like, he is still the guardian of this town, but his mind is slipping. And to have that conversation with Frieren and him, just talking about how this is why I do this. I had a wife, she was human. And the fact that, like, even before the memories start fading, I'm like, oh man, I'm thinking he probably can't even remember the sound of the voice, probably doesn't know all the details everywhere, because imagine not having a picture of someone you love and you get to 450, 500 years old. I mean, he said he was guarding that town for like 400 years. Dwarves are only supposed to live 300, so you have to imagine he had 100 or 200 years under his belt before even doing all that. But either way, like, the fact that he outlived a dwarven lifespan, and the fact that when Frieren initially left this village the first time, he said, "Thank you for visiting with me at the end of my life," and 80 years later he said the same thing. Unfortunately, this time it probably is true. I would not be shocked in the slightest if by the time they reach heaven, they reach the land of the spirits, we see this dwarf waiting for us as well, because I feel like it's entirely likely. All I ask is that he gets to be with his wife if they do decide to pull on our emotional heartstrings like that. I kind of feel like if they do go the direction I think they are with Zyme, they might have Zyme separate here, and we may not see him again over the next 12 episodes. That's entirely possible. But I feel like I wouldn't be shocked if by the time we do get closer to those gates, if he does make his way back to the party, whether or not that's because he's already found his friend or he got the confirmation his friend's dead, I don't know. But either way, there's a lot of potential, and if they do remove him, there's a little more potential for other traveling companions in the future, which is kind of like a glass half full sort of mentality I'm trying to have, because I'm preparing myself for him to separate. If he decides not to, I will be a very happy camper. I think at this point though, anyone who tries to claim that Frieren isn't a certified masterpiece is either lying to themselves, they're drunk, or they hate fun. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that statement. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. But in all actuality, I mean, not everyone's gonna like everything you like, and that's fine. But this show, to me, anime of the year, one of my new personal favorites. The scenery, the backdrops, just how every episode, I mean, especially the past like 2 or 3 episodes have felt like 2 or 3 episodes in one. But it doesn't feel bloated or anything. There's just so much happening. I could have a slice of life of them walking through a forest. I could have an episode where they're just helping an old woman do some random chores and bullshit. Or we can have this emotional story about a dwarf who's done so much for a village that they don't even know why he does it, but he's losing his mind and his memories of that who he loves. And we can even do something with Zyne and this silly backstory, and how they got these ridiculous names and come out saying, I'm not ready to see him go if they actually do commit to getting rid of him. And I can't wait to see where they take it. But let me know what you thought down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're around here, of course ring that bell. And like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon if you're interested. And hey, while you're over there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have Trap Senpai, Bryce DeZangles, Taylor, F Google, username MK, Darthwin Wright, and Eric Barton. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.